Hi, I'm Jessica.
I'm Darcy.
And welcome to our Mother-Daughter podcast. Oh my gosh, okay. We wanted to do this podcast near the beginning of our podcasting adventure, I guess you could call it. But this is kind of going to be just a touch on how to get started going down the non-toxic lifestyle, healthy lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different names out there: crunchy, scrunchy, non-tox, all whatever. Living your healthier life for you and your family. Whether your kids are grown and out of the house, it's never too late to start living better and actually taking care of yourself. I think one of the biggest things for me as a Christian is, God gave us our temple, and why would we put garbage in it? Think of it that way. If you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
If you've watched this video, you know now. Hold yourself accountable. Where did we want to start?
Okay. Well, yes, the last podcast was about fragrance.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So our last podcast was on fragrance. And after we did that, and we thought, and a lot of the things that we talk about come directly from conversations we have with all the many people we see at the farmers market every summer and throughout the year at different markets, because we get in these conversations with people as to why we do things the way we do, and then we're able to explain that. Our motivation really is to take some of those conversations and bring them here. And we always want to hear your comments. And we'll share something that someone shared with us from the last one, which was awesome. Our goal this time around is to maybe give you a roadmap, of things to do. Now, you don't have to do it in the order that we say. They're just things to do and how to get there. And then you choose what you can do first. Everybody's journey is going to be different. Yeah. Everybody's life is different.
Everybody's finances are different.
Mm-hmm. So you have to choose, and we recommend you choose the easiest thing for you. You look at the list and it's like, okay, I can do this easy, and do that for 60 to 90 days. Start out with a 30-day. That's the main thing. It's a mental exercise. Do 30. Okay, I got that. Do 30. Got that. Do 30. By the end of 90 days, it's a new habit. And so by just giving yourself small little increments to go, even if you think you can only do it by the week, do it by the week. Yeah. Think to yourself, okay, this week I'm not going to do this.
Yeah. This week I'm not going to eat food dye, or I'm not going to give my kids food dye, or whatever it may be.
Or when I go to the store, I'm going to read all the labels. And maybe you'll still choose something that you've been choosing because you're not quite ready to let go yet, or you haven't found a healthy alternative. Totally fine. As long as you're always moving forward, that's the goal. Moving forward every week, moving forward, doing the next thing. And that's what our goal is here, is to kind of give you a roadmap to do that.
Yeah. For me, I started down this path when I was pregnant with my son, which I think I've mentioned in one of our podcasts before. And the first thing for me was food, because that's something that I had kind of known about. And I started down the food path. Now, I am the type of person, I'm a very small percentage. So most people are not like me. And so don't take this as me saying, do this. No, do it your way, please. Because if you do it my way, it might not work out for you, right? Because I'm a crazy person. My way is, if I buy a jar of peanut butter, okay? If I go buy a jar of peanut butter, and then literally the next day, I haven't even opened it. The next day, I find out that something in that is not good for me or my children, I will literally throw it in the trash or feed it to the birds and go buy what else is better. Now, is that financially responsible? Maybe not, because no, I'm not a rich person. Can I afford to do this all the time? No. But I do it anyways.
Yeah.
Because that's how my brain works. I'm an all in or all out type of person. So if I find out something's bad, I don't want it anywhere near me or my kids. Now, the most responsible way to go about this is to say, okay, this granola bar I've been buying has all these horrible ingredients in it. Let's finish out this box while I research and look for something better or learn how to make something better. And then once this is gone, I will not buy this again, but I'm going to finish it because I paid for it and it's not wasteful. I can be a little wasteful sometimes. I do know that. So don't come after me. But I just wanted to put that out there. I'm an all or nothing type of person. She's halfway there.
Depends on what it is.
Depends on what it is. She would never throw out a full thing unless it was absolutely going to poison you.
Yeah, unless it was something a deal breaker. You know, there are things that you learn. And one of the things, as a 6-year-old, when we raise our kids, those of you who have adult kids or even little kids, the one thing I always told the kids, because I never wanted them to think that I knew everything, because if you're that parent that acts like you do, that just causes other issues. Now, one of my favorite things to say to them is, we don't know, we don't know. Okay? We just don't. And there are lots of things that I didn't know coming along that when she became a parent and started on this road as well, she started enlightening me on many things that I had no clue about.
And I mean, I still learn things to this day. I'm still learning things and I'm still changing things.
And we learn from our farmers market people, other vendors, our viewers. You know, we are always learning. We're not going to sit up here and pretend like we're professionals or that we know everything, because we absolutely do not know. And we're okay with saying, oh my gosh, we said X, Y, and Z back when, and we just found out that that's not good.
Yeah.
And we'll be the first to say, sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
we thought it was a better alternative. Okay, it's not. You know?
Yeah. And we're okay with that, because we don't know, we don't know until we know it.
And then we'll let you know if and when we find something out. Our list of 4, and we'll put it down below for you to kind of look at. These are 4 major things that we believe should be changed in every household if you are going down this path. Now, pick one. If you get overwhelmed, pick one that you think you can do easily and go after it, one thing at a time. There are subcategories in each one of these, and we will get into that further in the video. So the 4 things are personal care products, cleaning products, food, of course, and fragrance. Now, in our last video, we talked about fragrance, right? So if you want to know more about fragrance and switcheroos and alternatives, making things yourself on the cheap, which I'm about, go watch our last video. I will link it down below so you can just click and make it easy for yourself.
And that covers a lot of the cleaning products as well.
That covers a few of the cleaning products, yes. Especially laundry. We talked a lot about laundry, which one of our viewers messaged me on Instagram and sent me a video. Now, I have not tried it yet since it's only been a week, but I wanted to let y'all know that in the video, this woman was talking about getting rid of the fragrance from used clothes, or if you're detoxing your life and you're trying to get rid of the fragrance from your clothes that you've put in there. She said that what she does is puts alcohol, just vodka. I think she said hers was flavored. I don't know. I think she just had it around because they don't drink. But I believe it was half and half vodka water, and sprays it on the clothes and hangs them outside. Now, I do have some clothes I can experiment on, and I'm going to experiment on as soon as I go buy a cheap bottle of vodka, and I will let you know as soon as I know if that works.
And if you can't hang them outside, if you live in an apartment or somewhere where they don't allow that, I'm sure you can, put a little string in your shower or your bathroom and hang them in there, even just a few at a time, just to make sure it works. I mean, don't overdo it. Do a few, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to try on a few things that we have purchased fairly recently, or things that were given to us from other people. Because, baby clothes, it's nice when people share.
Yes,
hey,
I love hand-me-downs. I just don't like the smell of them.
We love getting them, and we also like giving.
Yeah.
So that's helps everybody.
It does. Now, the next thing we'll talk about, which one should we go over first of the other 3?
Well, a lot of what we have on there was covered in our fragrance video as far as cleaning products, personal products, other than the fact that, okay, if you just bought a bunch of, I understand how we all have to shop nowadays. The economy is not our friend. I don't care how much money you have or don't have. It hurts everybody to some degree. So if you just went to Costco and bought the big old jugs of shampoo products for your shower, let's say, or body wash, ideally, you look at that and think, oh man, I don't want to throw that away. So my suggestion is do week on, week off at first, just to see how it's working out for you. Do some natural soaps, washing your hair with a shampoo bar. Because when you start doing the natural soaps and the shampoo bars, you really literally only need to shower maybe once or twice a week,
Yeah.
which is good for your skin.
Now, me personally, because I'm in postpartum and my hormones are a little crazy, I do need to shower a little bit more than that. But before I had my baby and before I got pregnant, I mean, I was showering maybe once a week. I didn't stink. My hair was great, and I mean, my mom, she maybe washes her hair once a week.
Maybe,
Sometimes you go a little
sometimes
bit longer because I mean, she doesn't stink. And no, I'm not just saying that because I'm her daughter. If she stank, I'd tell her and I'd tell you, right? But
It's been a few days, so.
But you have to be honest with your friends too. Like if they're going through this and hey, can you smell me? I'll ask my friends. One of my friends, I asked her the other day, I was like, hey, can you smell this? She's like, no, you don't smell.
Yeah.
But anyways, my point in that department is when you go down this road, you don't have to shower as much, which actually you save money because you're not washing yourself as much. You're not using as much water, as much products. My daughter, for instance, oh my gosh, her hair always never looks greasy unless I put greasy stuff in it to shape it or whatever. But even then, it'll go away in a few days. And she does not like to get her hair washed. That's a big one for her. She does not like to get her hair washed. I honestly, again, don't come after me because she's not dirty, right? Especially in the wintertime. But I don't wash her hair, but maybe 2 to 3 times a month.
Right.
But she takes lots of fun showers.
Yeah.
And what the fun shower
rinse offs.
Is she'll just kind of play in the shower and get her hair wet and her body's wet and she rinse off, whatever. It's a rinse. But we don't need to be scrubbing our bodies with soap all the time and getting all the good oils and bacteria off. That's not good for us.
And one thing of note is when we started down this, and we realize this, we tell people all the time that if you're going down this road, especially with the personal care products, you are detoxing your body. So you will have initially some reactions from your body. You will maybe break out. You will maybe stink more than usual. You will be going through a detox of your body. So give yourself 2 to 3 weeks to get through that. Mm-hmm. And then it all escaped. Yep. Now, maybe postmenopausal. One of the things that really got me started on the personal care side, which I didn't really start doing until fairly recently, within the last 5 years, because my hair was literally just falling out in handfuls. And of all the people I've talked to, menopause-wise, we all have the same experience.
I mean, even in farmers markets, my heart just goes out to some of these women because they don't know and they have bald spots. I'm sure it maybe you're one or you know somebody. It's not your fault and it's not natural for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. And we see them walk by and I just want to run out there and say, please come talk to me. Let me help you. Here's my soap. Please use my soap. But, you can't really just chase people down like that in public.
We have once or twice.
Only when they show like eczema or psoriasis on their skin. And even before I started menopause, the doctors told me I had thyroid issues and it's just the hair falling out was part of that gig. And I believed that. And they put me on medicine, which I only took for 2 years because it made me crazy. Another video. Anyway, when I started using our bar soap without all the extras that are in there, the 3 ingredients that are in a normal bar soap without any fragrances, essential oils, and all the things, just plain, and using vinegar as my rinse. It was probably a good maybe 30 days, maybe more than that, when I noticed that my hair was not falling out in handfuls. Yeah. And interestingly, the winter, my husband and I, we take a trip to Arizona every winter to see a friend. And, I get kind of lazy because it's kind of hard when you're visiting people and you're staying in their house. So I didn't use my stuff that much because she has really super hard water and I didn't bring anything to counter that this time. So I ended up using some of her products. And sure enough, the hair just started falling out again, which is a true test to me saying, okay, it's the product, not me.
Which I actually was thinking about that the other day, about the hard water issue, right? And and this is something for you to try. She's going to be my test subject. But next time you go to Arizona, I want you to get some baking soda and take it with you.
I will do that.
Because when I first started, before we started making our own soap, and I feel like we've mentioned this before, but I don't remember. I did the no poo method of washing my hair when I started getting away from the regular shampoos and conditioners, and I washed my hair with baking soda. instead of shampoo. And I did the vinegar rinse from just an organic vinegar. I had it from the store before we started making vinegar. And my hair was fantastic. I mean, just as fantastic as it is now with our shampoo. And if you have extra greasy hair, maybe, and you're trying to get away from shampoo or whatever it is, maybe just try washing your hair with baking soda and then do the vinegar rinse after that. Look it up. There's the tutorials on it or whatever online. I'm not going to get into it, but maybe take some baking soda with you to Arizona.
I'll do that. Because back when she was young, when I was a working mom, I did all the things, drop them off at school, go do work, pick them up, the crazy life of a working mother. I was in the habit, like a lot of people, of washing my hair every morning because that was the only way I could fix my hair. Because my hair was not cooperative unless I got up in the morning, took my shower, and washed my hair. And now I look back at that and I think, oh my gosh, that was just crazy, unnecessary crazy, because nowadays I get out of bed, I do a comb in my hair, I pretty much am ready to go out the door.
Oh my gosh, this woman, it kind of infuriates me because now we co-sleep, so I'm tossing and turning all night.
Not co-sleep. She co-sleeps with
my baby. I co-sleep.
That did sound weird.
It did sound weird.
No, she has a husband, she co-sleeps with the baby.
Co-sleep with my mom still.
You should leave that in.
I'm leaving this in. It's too funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. It infuriates me because when I co-sleep with my baby, not my mom.
That's funny.
Okay. I'm tossing and turning, feeding him all night, whatever, because he uses me as a binky. It's another story. Obviously, my hair is very interesting when I wake up, and she will literally walk out of her bedroom looking fantastic with bed head. She's and she can just walk out the door. She doesn't even have to comb it half the time. She just walk out the door. It's very infuriating.
But I can tell you, I was never like that until I started changing my routine.
I can attest to that.
Okay. That's what's important there, just little by little. And for me, that was one of the easiest things to do because it's only 2 things. Plus, my whole bathroom isn't full of bottles of things everywhere. Because I had everything. I had the conditioners, body washes,
face washes,
facial soaps, all the things you have in your bathroom. It's just a crazy town in there. And now I have 2 bars of soap and my vinegar rinse. End of story.
Yep.
It makes it very easy. So personal care products are really one of the easier things to do.
I think so. I'm still looking for recipes or clean makeup recommendations because that's really hard to find. Unfortunately, I'm still wearing bad mascara. Sometimes I don't wear makeup that often though. So I feel like that's one of my 90-10s right now.
Well, it's only because you're so white. See, she made some powder out of cocoa. I don't know what else is in there.
No, it was...
What did you put in that? I still use that. I have it on right now.
She has it.
I'm
I'm too white. I just have to use like straight arrowroot powder and ghost it, But I prefer the creamy ones, and I don't know how to make that. I'm working on it.
We're working on that, and we're working on toothpaste, and we're
working on
mascara. So we're always working, and when we come up with something, it'll hit our store, and we'll let y'all know.
Yeah.
Either way, and we'll also show you where to go if you want to make it yourself. A lot of people just don't have the time. I don't think I would have had the time to do things we do now back when I was a working mother. There's just no way with all the activities and all the things. So I totally get that. But I also know that even though a bar of soap, whether it's ours or anyone else's, the average price is around $8 to $10. So when you're only bathing twice a week or less, that bar lasts a long time.
And you can get the little soap baggies, which we sell, but you can also order them or find them at your local farmer's market. I can guarantee you any soap maker is going to have them in their little farmer's market shop.
Yeah.
And I honestly, those are my kids' things because any scrap bar from what I use or my husband uses goes in their baggie and then they get the rest of it. So I get a full bar, they get scraps in their bags, and that's what they wash with. Yeah. When they wash.
Okay. Now we're going to move to the food because, to be honest, I think that's probably the hardest for most people.
Especially moms with kids, because if your kids are used to eating the generic food, it's addictive.
Yeah. Even with kids, I mean, you have a husband who's really not a willing participant. It makes it a little hard.
It does.
Because they like what they like, and when you change it out, sometimes it's a little bit of a adjustment for everyone.
Okay, my husband is very willing and not willing participant in some things. Now he does go to the gas station and get garbage sometimes, which he's working on. He doesn't do it all the time. I pack him lunches, and but he's a grown man. I'm not gonna baby him. I'm not his mother, and so he's gonna do what he does. He is very
He's mindful though.
He's very mindful, and I'm very happy about that, especially when it comes to the kids. He's on board with all the absolute no's that we have, because we do have deal breakers. I am lenient sometimes, but I have absolutes that I will not ever give into, especially with my kids and myself, because I'm breastfeeding, so whatever I eat, my baby eats. So anyway, that was my touch on husbands. Give them slack. Don't force them. They're, again, grown men. They're adults. Now, with that being said, you as a wife and a mother, if you are the one going down this path, he is your partner. You discuss this with him, but also, who does the grocery shopping? Mm-hmm. Generally, it's the mom. That's not the same in every single household, though.
Right. Can I touch on lunch for a second, just as a working mom, since you're a stay-home mom, so it's a little different.
Oh, I think that would be a great idea. Yeah. Yes, touch on lunch.
Yeah,
please.
I'll touch on lunches because there's a lot of interesting TikToks. I mean, I'm not a TikToker. I don't have TikTok, but they do show up on my Instagram or my Facebook every now and then. And with these women who are kind of prideful about not doing things for their husbands, even if they work or not work, it seems to be not a thing either way. And it's a little disappointing. But if you're on this road, please think about getting up. I mean, 'cause I got up every morning. I was working too. I mean, I could easily say, well, I work too. You should just make your own lunch. I've seen plenty of women who don't even make lunch for their children. They're old enough. They can make a sandwich. That's the attitude. And it's very hurtful when you think about it, because these children are having to make choices. The husband, their brain doesn't think that way. They're just going to mow through and grab whatever out of the cupboards and throw it in their box and go.
Or just not worry about it and go through the drive-through.
Yeah. I always thought of it as a labor of love. You love your family, you do what you can do. And for me, being on that road at that time, not really as well as she is, for sure. That's a whole nother thing. But at the time, my way of making sure that they didn't eat the garbage they served at school, specifically, or my husband, because he was a construction guy, I didn't want him eating off those nasty food trucks, because they use nothing but seed oils and God knows what in the food. So I would just get up and had all their lunches lined up, and I just made all their lunches. I literally made her and her sister's lunch all the way into their senior year of high school.
This is true. It was the best.
And they loved it. And my husband loved having for lunch. I mean, I would have his lunch ready, and off you go. I get everybody going, and then I would go.
I mean, my mom was so great. I'm going to brag on her for a second, because when I was a freshman, we lived in Reno, and now they had off-campus lunch. And so sometimes I would have some money, she'd give me some money, and I would go buy lunch off campus, because we could just walk down the street. There's a grocery store, and I did buy some things I wasn't supposed to. I bought Monster sometimes, which I regret.
For me,
I was a freshman in high school. She let me make some choices, and that's okay. Now, when we moved to Missouri, they didn't have off-campus lunch, which I hated, because I was so used to going off campus for lunch sometimes, or even walking somewhere outside and eating my lunch that she packed me, which was most of the time that happened. And my friends would get their food and we'd all just kind of hang out. So sometimes I would just text her from school and say, hey, Mom, can you bring me a Subway sandwich? Or can you go pick me up a pizza? And it's
kind of spoiled.
I sound really spoiled right now.
I know.
But okay, she worked from home.
I worked from home at that point.
And we lived literally right down the road from the school.
2-minute drive to the school.
Literally 2 minutes. And it was a suburb, so there was food everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's not like it was a rural school. Yeah. Whatever. And so sometimes she would say yes and go pick something up and drop it off at the office at lunchtime. And she'd even buy it for my friends too.
Yeah, it was fun.
She was fantastic. She was a great mom. She made my lunches and then brought me food and all the things. Always made sure I never ate school food. Not once. I think I tried it once or twice, but it was so absolutely disgusting. And that's when I was in school. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. See, because
nowadays it's even worse.
When I was in school, of course, people my age will remember, I mean, they actually cooked the food on site and served it to you. You got to choose. By middle school, you get to go through the little line and you kind of chose what you wanted. You didn't even have to eat the main food.
No.
In fact, honestly, there was probably my whole 7th grade year, all I ate was I got a milk chocolate shake and fries. Literally, that's what I had for lunch my entire 7th grade year because my mom would give us money and I would pocket, part of that money in those days.
Of course. I mean, why not?
But I didn't know anything back then either, of course. And I knew how things had changed by the time they were coming up. And I just didn't want them eating school lunches. They were not good. They were brought in from somewhere else, and
Frozen and
microwaved and God knows what. And so I just didn't really want them touching that with a 10-foot pole. So, but as far as the food goes,
yes, okay,
the choices.
There are choices. Now, as I'm very far down this path, I will tell you, I've been on this journey for almost 8 years now, food-wise, and I do not buy snack food. And that started not even that long ago when we moved up here, because when we lived in Texas, my husband got paid every week. Every Friday, I would go to the grocery store, spend $400 to $500 on food, and I would have snack stuff like string cheeses, squeezy pouches, healthier versions of it all, like organic, all the things. But I would have all these snacks in the fridge, and my kids would literally just snack all day long and not have full meals, and it was expensive. Well, we moved up here, and my husband, his job now pays every other week. And so one of them is a grocery check and one of them is a rent check. Now I've started having to be more mindful about that, and we have saved so much money not buying snack food. But ingredient wise, this is the big thing, because they've told us for how long now, since I was a kid, look at the calories, look at that little nutritional chart. Well, guess what that sits above? The ingredient list, which you have not been looking at because they've told you, oh, just look at the calories, look at the added sugars, look at the carbohydrates, look at this, look at that. And yes, I look at it to see how much protein and added sugars in it. That's pretty much what I look at that for. But ingredients is where you really need to look, because if you cut out a few ingredients, you're going to save money.
Yeah. I mean, just a handful.
Yeah. Now, making your own stuff, like making your own bread, learning, you don't have to do sourdough. You can start with yeast breads. I have a wonderful friend who makes everything from scratch, and she doesn't do sourdough. She's going to learn. She makes everything from scratch, and she just uses the yeast, and it all tastes amazing, and it's homemade, and she still uses good ingredients. So you do not have to do sourdough. Okay. But making your stuff from scratch is going to save you money. It's not hard. I just made a bunch of cookies, and it literally took 5 minutes to whip up cookie dough, organic ingredients. Now, sugar-wise, I do buy organic cane sugar. I don't buy brown sugar because brown sugar is literally just cane sugar with molasses. I just buy organic backstrap molasses, and I just add it to whatever recipe I'm using if it calls for brown sugar. No, I don't make my brown sugar in advance because I feel like that's an extra step I don't need to take, and an extra container on my shelves that I don't need to have. So I just separate those. Corn syrup is a big non-negotiable for me in my house. Anything just corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup, doesn't matter. My kids won't touch it. I won't touch it. Not doing it. Soy is another really, really big one that's in pretty much everything that's on a shelf because it has soy lecithin in it. Still a soy product. Not going to have it in my house because pretty much almost every single soybean in the US is sprayed with glyphosates. And again, non-negotiable in my house.
And soy is also an estrogen.
Yes.
So if you have boys in your house and you're feeding them processed food and there's a lot of soy in that, you're adding estrogen unnaturally to their body.
And same with girls, though, because girls are going into puberty a lot sooner, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with the food as well as other things. Let's see, what else is food dyes?
Yeah.
That's my biggest one. My son, in his older years, has had 1 or 2 experiences with food dye, and he's a terror, and I will not ever give it to him again. A lot of moms We'll say if we're at a birthday party, they can have the cake. If they're here, they can have this. I'm absolutely not. I'm pretty sure I lost a friend over this because I say no food dyes. Now they can eat the birthday cake. If it's red velvet, absolutely not. I'm sorry. We'll make some dessert at home when we get home and you can have that. That's fine. But if it has the frosting and it's colored, they automatically know. They scrape it off. They scrape it off.
You mean the 5-year-old does that?
My 5-year-old scrapes off the frosting and just eats the cake part, or just eats around whatever's dye and whatever if we're at a birthday party. But yeah, that is a non-negotiable for me. Absolutely not.
It profoundly affects the behavior. And when you don't use it and then they have something, it's very obvious.
Awful.
Very obvious. So if you have a child who is hard to manage, maybe they have a bad temper, maybe they are overreactionary and it's a constant battle all the time. I think the first thing to do is to look at what's in the food I'm feeding them. It's not anyone's fault. As a mom, it's like everything's our fault. As a mother, it's like, I'm so, what did I do that for? But once look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it and think, okay, I'm going to do 30 days of no dyes and no added sugar kind of food for my kids and see what happens. And you'll notice a difference.
Yeah.
And you'll notice a difference in yourself too, if you're doing it for yourself, because if you in our busy lives, in this environment that we're in, whether you're working mom or stay-home mom, both of them are hard. I think stay-home moms have it much tougher, having lived on both sides of that to a degree. You'll notice your anxiety level will be decreased. And if you have anxiety, depression, or you have your own motivational issues, just those two things out of your diet, you'll notice a difference in yourself and in your children.
And it doesn't mean you can't have sweet treats around the house. Just learn how to make them at home with, organic sugars, limit them. Obviously, we don't have cookies in the house all the time. I buy like 4 or 5 bags of organic dark chocolate chips from the grocery store once a month. And when they're gone, they're gone. Sometimes they don't always get eaten, And we buy dates. God's candy right there.
And part of this, I know the struggle is once your kids are bigger, it's hard to undo what you've done. Yes. I get that. Or if they're younger and you're just starting out, it's still going to be a struggle. But remember, one important thing, as our children are coming up and for ourselves, your taste buds, you get new ones all the time. Yeah. And so you can retrain your palate, and you're going to retrain your children's palate, and you're going to train your younger children's palate from the get-go, because then they will just learn on their own, and they'll put something in their mouth and go, gosh, that's too sweet.
My kids do that.
Yeah.
My son in particular, he's a lot more sensitive to sugars. And he has a cupcake that I didn't make, and he got it at a birthday party, and he'll eat one cupcake and he'll just feel like garbage till the next day, and he knows it. And so he is learning to say, okay, maybe a half a cupcake or,
right,
whatever it is. But I thought of something else that I really wanted to add, because I see this a lot online, that people are like, oh, if you're doing this, you're going to cause eating disorders because you say, oh, you can't have that. That's not what I say. And I want to put that out there. I don't say, you just can't have that. Oh, now I say, that's poison. We're not eating that.
Poison.
Because
drastic.
No, but it is.
Yes.
In my mind, it's not good for us to eat it. It is poisoning our brains. It's poisoning our bodies, our organs, and that's not okay with me. Now, yes, I use the word poison with my kids. Yes, my kids will look at somebody's grocery cart in the store and say, look at all the garbage in their cart. They're my kids out loud. And that's fine. I don't care. Whatever. My point being, I explain to them, we look at the box and say, if my son, if we're at Costco and he goes, hey mom, this snack looks really good. Can I have this? I don't say, absolutely not. I say, bring me the box. Let's look at the ingredients together and let's decide if we're going to eat this and put this in our body. And we'll look at the ingredients, and I will point out the ingredients to him. I said, look, this has high fructose corn syrup. Remember, we've talked about this. This has food dyes in it. This has whatever in it. And we talk about it. And he understands. My 5-year-old understands. If it's brightly colored, it probably has food dye, and that's bad for us.
Right.
I'm not just saying, no, you can't have this. And I've explained to my kids from the beginning, from 2 years old, no, this is why we can't have this. This is why we don't choose to put this in our body. You have to explain that to kids. You can't just say, oh, we're not eating that.
Right.
Because when they get to be teenagers, if they don't know exactly why they don't have it, they're like, oh,
my chance
I'm just going to eat it.
Yeah. Like you did with the monster drinks.
Like I did with the monster drinks. Now, she did explain to me a little bit as to why we shouldn't drink those, but I did it anyways. I'm fine now.
Teenagers.
Teenagers, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
My kids are going to do what they're going to do when they get older, but we're instilling the knowledge now.
Right.
So they can always have this in the back of their heads, hearing mom in the grocery store.
And I do want to touch on, in my previous life, I was a drug and alcohol mental health counselor, and I dealt with addiction people all the time. And one of the things that just bugged the what out of me is I would go to AA meetings with my clients, or Celebrate Recovery, or or NA, or one of those things, and they would have bowls and bowls of candy and pots of coffee for these poor people who are trying to get off drugs. And the drugs create that dopamine in your brain, which drives the cravings. Like, oh, that felt so good, I want some more. Well, all they're trading is this unhealthy drug, of course, which would kill them eventually, for the candy, which seems to be less dangerous, but over time it does the same damage, and you can't undo it. And you get that same dopamine rush from a bag of Skittles or anything else that's loaded with fructose corn syrup. Fructose corn syrup specifically is addictive all by itself. I remember driving around St. Louis one time with my husband, because he's in construction and we're out doing estimates. And we drove by the PepsiCo company right off the freeway. And I took a picture, and this was 2012. That's how long this ago was. And they had a huge silo metal thing that just said on the outside, fructose corn syrup. Said right on there that they put in the Pepsi products. And I just had to take a picture of it, because I thought, oh my gosh, this is gross. It's outdoors in this hot 100-something degree weather, and they have this big thing that says right on there, fructose corn syrup. And I just was appalled that they just don't care.
Yeah.
They meaning the people who make stuff. Again, we're not political people. I'm not against big companies. I'm not anti-capitalism or anything like that. People want to make money, they make money. We as consumers can choose not to buy certain things, and then eventually they change what they make. They change what they do, because they have to sell their stuff to somebody. And if we're not buying the garbage, they'll make a change and make it better. So,
speaking of garbage, I remembered another non-negotiable for me, for sweetener wise, is any kind of artificial sweetener. Sucralose, anything with ends with ose, dextrose, chemical sweeteners, don't do it. And what's very interesting, and I was actually having a conversation with my friend the other day about, I think it was don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it's dextrose. When we started canning things, we were looking for pectin, because you use pectin. And no, we have not made our own pectin before from fruit. I know you can. I'm not there yet on that particular thing, because we don't make a bunch of jellies. And we found one pectin, one on the market, and I scoured the internet looking for one that didn't have dextrose in it. And nowhere in homemade jellies have I ever seen them put anything but pectin on the label.
Right.
Now, is it in the ones that we buy from Costco? I don't know, because they don't put it on the label.
They don't have to.
They don't have to. And with that being said, be mindful about who you buy jelly from, because if they're using pectin, maybe they don't know, okay? I'm not saying, oh, these people are bad. No, they probably just don't know, because they're not a crazy person like me who just goes trying to find every little important thing that I think is important, right? There's only one on the market that I know of that does not have any dextrose or any anti-caking anything in it. And it's just pectin.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many pounds of sugar you have to use to make jelly FDA approved, not FDA approved, what is it?
Cottage law approved.
Cottage law or whatever the heck it is.
For your state to sell it at a farmer's market.
Yeah, you have to use so much sugar. It's absolutely insane.
It's considered some level of preservative. The bottom line is addiction. You know, all these sugars, all these
Chemical
additives,
ones too.
all these chemical preservatives, all this stuff has addictive properties to it. And once you set your children up to crave those things, you set them up for other addictions potentially as they grow older. So even though you're going to have to retrain their palates, you know, let them know, communicate with them. These things cause addiction. You know, what, fentanyl now is a big problem. It has been huge for a long time. Yeah. When I was younger, it was more like cocaine and heroin. But these people, it's not, a lot of them aren't, it isn't their fault. They were raised in a household with all these addictive things. And so then they happen to be one of those personalities who's more susceptible to addiction. And I believe that there are some people are more susceptible to addiction than others. Can't prove it. A lot of people say there's a genetic thing. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I'm not a doctor or a scientist. I'm not going to say one way or the other. I do know that some people are more predisposed to addiction than others, just from my experience. So by setting them up with this sugar, this dopamine reaction in their brain early in their lives, you're creating that craving for much later, and they may use that in other ways that isn't good for them. Yeah. And it wouldn't be, I mean, I'm not saying if you're right now, if you're an adult mom and one of your kids has a drug addiction, it's your fault.
No, that's not what we're saying.
It's not what I'm saying.
Adults make choices.
Adults make choices.
Including your kids.
Including your kids. Because at some point, kids turn 18, I'm sorry, you can quit blaming your parents for everything that happens to you.
Yeah, once you turn 18, or even, 16, 17, depending on your household, you're a grown adult. You can make your decisions. You can live your life. You don't need to continuously blame your parents. I have plenty to blame somebody for, but I don't because I'm an adult and I make my decisions.
So we want to encourage everyone that, we're going to put our laundry list of ingredients that are deal breakers.
Yes.
And please do your own research. Plug them in, find out about them. And make your decisions accordingly. Yeah. What's important? What's going on in my family? What on this list might benefit my family more readily? And then make your decisions accordingly.
And I think there's one other type of ingredient category that we need to touch on because this is a big one, and it's oils, fat, all of that. Goodness, this is a big one because avocado oil is suspect to me now because of there's been studies. I don't know where to find the exact one that I had read, but look them up. Someone did an independent study of avocado oils, and a lot of them came back with either partially it was vegetable oil or it was all vegetable oil. Know your source. That's the biggest one. Know your source. Olive oil is really finicky for me. I have a few things that I go about when I'm picking olive oil. I don't cook with it a lot because it's so expensive. Same with avocado. I don't cook with these a lot because they're expensive and I'm on a budget. I'm not a rich person, and it needs to come from one source. Okay. It needs to be in a glass bottle and preferably be organic. Now, if I'm desperate in need of olive oil, which doesn't usually happen, but if I'm in desperate need of olive oil and it meets the first two to where it's from one country of origin and it's in a glass bottle, I will buy that one if they don't have an organic option near me. Now, I am the type of person, I will go to 3 or 4 different grocery stores to try and find what I need, but that's not everybody. So again, do as you will.
And not always convenient because we really don't have that many choices where we live anyway.
We don't. So sometimes I have to buy something that I don't particularly like or just not get it and wait till I go an hour away to my big grocery stores that I like. Okay, so we've covered olive oil and avocado oil. But the only other fats that I personally suggest to cook with is lard from a reputable source. No, not the big plastic tubs of lard at the grocery store. That's gross.
Very gross.
Very gross. Make your own. It's not hard to make your own. Beef fat, so tallow. Okay. Again, not hard to make. Find your local farmer, butcher shop, whatever. Buy beef fat. Make your own cooking oil. cheap, easy, make it happen.
And good for you.
Very, very good for you. And my personal favorite is butter.
Coconut oil.
Oh, coconut oil. Yeah, that's a good one too. Again, we usually just use coconut oil to pop popcorn if we don't have any tallow around to cook our popcorn with. But
now, talking about the oils brings us to something that I think is very important, and I want you to look this up yourself because it is out there. Is back, the food pyramid. Those of us who are my age, and even maybe she remembers the food pyramid that came out. I think it came out in the 90s or so. Now, the gentleman who did the study, Ansel Keys, what he originally set out to do is to prove that fat caused heart disease, because there were so many people in America with heart disease. He couldn't figure out what the problem was. Well, what he did was he took 22 countries around the world and did the study on heart disease. But the problem is that his study didn't come out to match his original hypothesis that fat was the culprit for heart disease. So what did he do? Because he was buddy with many people in our government, in the Senate and House of Representatives, to get his stuff put out there. So what did he do? He got rid of all the countries in his study except for 7 that matched his hypothesis. Then he produced his information to our government, and that's where the food pyramid came from in relation to meat and fat. And it was not correct, because your Mediterranean, Japan, and many other countries ate it the other way around. But he didn't want to include those because they didn't go along with what his hypothesis was. That's when margarine was a thing, which was not butter. Actually, a very scary substance when you go look at the history of that. I'm not going to go into that. It's too much information there. Yeah. The fact that your brain is 90% cholesterol, and we need cholesterol for our brain.
But cholesterol is bad.
It can be if you have bad sources of fat. Absolutely. I'm not going to disagree. Yeah. Mazola oil.
Peanut oil.
Well, those yellow oils that are sitting there that are cheap in the big jugs.
Don't buy it.
Don't buy those.
Sorry.
They become rancid, and they're what cause you your cholesterol problems. I mean, they put me on cholesterol medication back in my 40s because I was convinced that it was hereditary and all the things. I took it for 2 years along with that thyroid medicine I mentioned earlier. It just made me crazy. So I just got off it and decided, you know what, I'm going to walk and do a little exercise and change my food. And that's when I started doing all this. So the key is that government, we can't depend on them to tell us, oh, this is good for you, and that's not. Even right now, right, politically speaking, right now, we have a house, or they assigned somebody,
was it Robert K. Jr.
Yeah,
or whatever?
Robert Kennedy.
RFK Jr.
Yeah, Robert Kennedy, which, nice man. I have nothing against him as a personal person. He's doing all the things he thinks are important, and I think that's great. But they're not doing really everything they should be doing. But I'm not going to discount what they're doing. Again, the responsibility lies with us. We cannot look at our government to make decisions for us and tell us, because studies like this Ansel Keys isn't the only one.
Came from our government.
That came from our government. Then we had the plate. What is that called?
Oh, the My Plate.
The My Plate thing.
I discovered this one when when we lived in Texas, and I was going into a high school to help teach the cooking class a little bit once a week or so. I did it for a few weeks, and it was really great. And I was trying to explain to these kids, about food and ingredients and all the things that we're talking about now. And I brought up the pyramid when I was doing my research to go to the class, and they had changed it then at some point, maybe before that, to My Plate, which is what kids are learning now, which is basically the pyramid in a different shape.
Basically, yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, there's that. So in other words, we already know, most of us know, that what goes on in our government, I'm sure they do a lot of good. I'm not going to discount that. I'm sure the people that go to government, they have their best intentions. They have their best intentions. So I'm not going to get into that conversation. Responsibility lies with ourselves. Yeah. Okay, let's not look at the government or other people necessarily. Let's do our own research. So please look up the Ansel Keys study for the food pyramid, the history of the food pyramid.
Go down that rabbit hole.
You'll be blown away by what is actually true, and how they pretty much ruined that whole generation coming up after that. And then they are wondering why people just keep getting sicker. They wonder why diabetes is an issue, because all these things that we're talking about, they make insulin resistance worse, all those things. I mean, I don't think I printed out that list of things that it causes. No, I didn't. I left that off just because that's for another video.
Go look it up. But I did, speaking of all of this, and something that really gets my goat personally as a mom, and I know a lot of moms struggle with this if you're on this path of trying to be healthier, trying to get your kids healthier, and just do better for your family, because maybe your mom or dad didn't know when you were growing up, and that's okay, you know, whatever, move on. But when grandparents, maybe you can speak a little bit more directly to grandparents, they do not care what their children are doing with the grandkids. And if the grandkids are at their house, oh, it's grandma's house, it's grandma's rules. You can have all the candy, you can have all this, you can have all that. And they just completely disregard the parents and what they want to do for their kids in a healthier way, too. Like, it's not like they're trying to give them all this garbage and the grandparents are trying to be healthier. That's a little bit different. But if the parents themselves are trying to make better choices, don't sit there as a grandparent and say, oh, I know better. I've raised kids. Oh, you turned out fine. Please stop.
Please stop.
Please. You're going to lose connection with your grandkids. If it were me,
yeah, that's a breaker.
Sorry, okay, you're not going to respect my parental choices. Goodbye. I'm a cut you off type of person.
Yeah.
Luckily,
we
didn't have that issue because I love her too much.
I was already on that. And, you know, my mother was kind of like that, to be honest. And that's part of the reason why I decided not to be like that, because she was a little bit like that, as you remember.
Yeah. Queen Anne's were my favorite snack at grandma's house.
And I was like, oh, quit giving my kids that garbage. So, but the thing is as a grandparent, I know we've all raised our own kids. And I know they turned out fine. But the thing is we didn't know what we didn't know back then. You know, my own mother, when I was a child, I mean, we had canola oil. She fried everything in canola oil. Thankfully, she did use butter a lot of times as well. We had processed food. We got our first microwave. That's all of us kids bought my mom a microwave for Mother's Day one year when Todd was the only one driving. So I couldn't have been more than 15. We drove to a whole nother town to buy it. And so we had a microwave and we did all the things. But she didn't know.
Yeah.
She was raised. I mean, I can look at her, you know, as an adult, and this is how us adults, regardless of our ages, regardless of our upbringing, is we need to treat our parents with grace. Yes. Because sometimes they just didn't know.
And
their parents didn't know. And that's okay too.
Educate them.
And just ask them nicely, hey, this is what I'm doing. I brought snacks for them, if you don't mind. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to work on that. And you as a grandparent, the best thing you do for your grandkids is to support what their mom is doing, especially if they're trying to be a healthier person. In the world we are in now, the food that is served is not the same as when I was a kid. When I was a kid, ding dongs, Twinkies, I'm trying to think of some of the others, ice cream sandwiches, you know, the things that were on the shelf in those days had actual real ingredients. They were made with flour, sugar, and butter and things. And so
yeah, you ate it as a kid, but it was different.
It wasn't the same recipe.
Because now they can make it with all this fake stuff and garbage for cheaper and make more money. Which, okay, make your money, fine. But again, as consumers, we have a choice to buy the crap or not.
Right. And just because I ate ding dongs when I was a kid doesn't mean I'm going to feed them to my grandkids.
Oh, hell
because it's not the same thing.
My kids look at that and say, that's poison.
Yeah. I know. Good for them.
Man. It's so fun shopping with my kids, to be honest, because they're not the kids be like, oh, can I have this sugary cereal?
They never ask.
We don't eat cereal. They say, oh, hey, Mom, can we get extra bananas? Oh, can we get kiwis or mangoes? Or, oh, Mom, don't forget to buy dates.
And they never ask for garbage.
No. It's great.
You've done a good job.
Luckily, I started this when they were really young, and this is just kind of how their life has been, and they're used to it.
Yeah.
I don't have the personal experience of having a kid who's older than 0. Have to retrain, and my heart goes out to you, mamas, if you're learning this kind of stuff later and your kids are older. Go you, because I know that's going to be really hard, and stick to your guns.
And please share your struggles.
Yeah, because some parents need to hear the other people's struggles.
Right. And if we hear some struggles that are helpful for us, we will report that on the next videos to help people who might be listening.
Yeah.
So if you found a way to get your kids on board, let us know, and we will share that with everyone when we can. I think that's really all.
The last part that I did want to touch on is the saying how to say no to temptations. Because yes, I still have temptations because I know how good some of that stuff tastes. Or I think I do because I remember loving it as a kid. And then now as an adult, I don't eat that garbage and I'll eat a Kit Kat. Yes, I have eaten a Kit Kat as a grown adult in my healthy lifestyle because I'm like, oh, it tasted so good. Guess what? No, it does not anymore. And
you've retrained your palate.
I have retrained my palate and I love it. But also a great thing to tell yourself when you're in the grocery store and you're starting on this path is don't ever tell yourself, I can't have that. Or cheat days or any of that. No.
Never use the word diet.
Never use the word diet because it's not a diet. You're changing a lifestyle. You're changing your whole life. You're not dieting. Okay. And when you tell yourself you can't, it makes you want something even more. Right? So remind yourself, like I remind my kids and I remind myself, we are not eating this or putting this in our bodies because the food dyes will alter your brain chemistry, whatever it is. Have those educational words in your mind to remind yourself and your kids, we're not putting this in our body. We're not doing this.
Well, I think that's all for now. Please, we want to hear from you. Yeah. We'd love to hear your comments. We really enjoy reading them, and we like the opportunity for you to help the other viewers as well.
Yes. And so if you have a story that you'd love to share with us about your journey, message us on Facebook, Instagram for our business page, or can you message on YouTube?
Yeah, they can leave a comment.
Okay. And I will happily, like if you want us to read it in the next video, we'll happily read your story out for people.
Let us know though, hey, I don't mind if you read this out loud.
Yeah.
Just don't use my name and location.
Yeah.
You know, that's fine. We would just do that.
Because we would never share something unless we had permission, obviously. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for watching and have a great week.
Bye.